I betrayed my brother, and now he comes back to me at night. I once participated in an investigation of paranormal phenomena. I haven't really experienced anything in this house. I was photographing everything in the basement, and when I came out, I saw a kitten in the window of the upper floor and, of course, exclaimed, "Oh, kitten," and took a picture of him. I returned home and looked at the photos. I noticed that there were a lot of photos with balloons in the basement, which was not surprising because I thought it was dust. However, I noticed that one of the photos with the balls showed a large ball and a small ball next to it. I turned to the cat photo. Guess what's next to the cat in the window? A big and a small ball. When I got home, I didn't feel anything was wrong. I just went home. Soon after that, I started dating a little boy and a man. It was always fleeting. The boy peeks around the corner. I see a blonde man in his 30s. I can hear someone standing in the kitchen, even his jeans rubbing against each other or the wood creaking under his weight. One day, he was standing behind me and washing dishes, and it seemed to me that someone was standing behind me. I quickly looked to my right, behind me, and saw a blur moving in the opposite direction. I'm looking to the left, and there's the same blurry spot on the right. It was all great, and I was a little scared, but I'd already had experience, so I had no idea what his intentions were. And then it was the middle of the night, when my little sons were sleeping upstairs. I was downstairs in the living room, probably still playing. I heard someone screaming and then sobbing as I ran down the stairs. 30 seconds later, the same thing happened to my youngest son. This had never happened in all the years of my parenting, and it never happened again. So it wasn't normal. They never had nightmares, or those from which they woke up screaming and crying and then ran out of the room. I was so filled with rage and a desire to protect my sons that, standing at the foot of the stairs leading to their room, I tore up another letter to him, calling him a vulgar man and asking him to leave my children alone. Damn it. I know perfectly well that there's nothing I can do about it, but I'll try to make him regret it somehow. Then I had a moment when I got angry and loudly told myself that I was probably crazy and it didn't mean anything. The next day, I received a reply. I was sitting downstairs in the living room with my sons. I was the only one at home. The only way to get to my second floor was by taking the stairs, which were right in my field of vision. I was sitting on the floor with them and I heard very loud, slow footsteps on the second floor. Very, very loud footsteps in boots. Interestingly, the floor was covered with carpet, but the sound was so loud, as if someone was walking on a tree. Immediately after that, I experienced a real shock. I've always had my suspicions. I've seen a lot of short materials, but I've been kidding myself and saying that I don't see what I see. But it was so obvious that there was no other explanation. I no longer doubt myself when faced with what I see now. I think I'm at least clairaudient, because I hear them more often than I see them. Sometimes you can hear a group of people talking in an empty house. I can hear them standing for a long time, periodically shifting from one foot to the other. I can hear the creaking of the floor and the friction of their clothes. When my brother died in 1904, I even heard him whisper my name several times. That night, I saw his shadow in the doorway, and he slowly came up to me and bent down. I pretended to be asleep because I was very scared. He ended his life in a prison cell due to an overdose of medication for depression. He was there partly because of me, because I testified against him. I was afraid he would get angry. He was very short-tempered. He often had outbursts of anger, and he could resort to violence. We had such a relationship. We had a love-hate relationship. I think it only happened because my daughter said she had a dream about him approaching her on the playground. She said they were talking and he was nice. It broke me, and nothing in my life has shaken me more than the loss of my brother. Grief never really goes away. I listened to podcasts about premature babies, and it helped. When he was gone, I watched the movie Dead Like Me, and it helped me get through it all. I am currently working in the behavioral health department at the crisis center where my brother was supposed to go instead of prison. They don't pay much for it, but I owe it to him to make sure that other people have a chance, because he never had one. I met the ghost of a man. As usual, I'm closing the pub. And then, the lights went out, the last check, and I hear the back door slam shut. No, I felt it slam shut. This is an old building, listed as a cultural heritage site, and this door is damn heavy, and I was sure I had bolted it. So it could only slam shut if I somehow left it open and someone came in and hit it with all their weight, a thick deadbolt. The only way to catch me off guard was to enter through that door or climb over the balcony. So the back door was always the first one I locked. I first bolt this door. It's either open or closed, or you're hitting a steel plate. I'm alone. The pub is dim. I walk through the bar area and the damn door slams so hard and loud that I feel it and think, what the fuck? As I turn the corner leading from the kitchen to the hallway, I see a man walking past the doorway. Cold as a stone, clear as day, trousers, button-down shirt tucked into trousers, shaved head, taller than me and angry. He walked, radiating anger. I shouted out your classic, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing?" There was no response. Damn me. I grabbed the big wrench we were holding behind the bar and went out into the hallway. Silence. I'm terrified, even though I'm trying to pretend that I'm not. I thought he was some kind of jerk, but oddly enough, he was dressed like a decent businessman. And why was he so angry? Oh, assholes, right? Who knows? But we need to get him out of here. Hey, asshole, don't be a fool. We're closing. Nothing. I'm heading to the brewery. It looks like the boiler room from A Nightmare on Elm Street. I brazenly walk down the steps with the words, "Come out, bitch. It will be easier this way than if I find you." Nothing. I look around, and then lower my head and look under the boilers. There are no legs. He's not there. And it's not in the freezer either. Otherwise, I would have heard the bell ring when the door opened. And my heart sank, because there was only one place he could go: basement. This cold, dark basement with stairs leading to a landing, and then down into pitch darkness. The beauty of this place was that the light in the basement penetrated from below, not from above, no flashlight. 3 steps down, and you find yourself in pitch darkness, and apparently, he was waiting for me there. I was younger then than I am now. Bolder. Nope. Stupider and more reckless, that's for sure. But I didn't let fear get the better of me. I walked down the steps into the darkness, brandishing a wrench in the pitch black, and let the rage caused by fear feed me, until I reached the bottom step. Then I flipped the switch, and the basement was flooded with light, and I screamed, "Come on, bitch," but there was no one there. I've searched everything, looked everywhere, there was no one there. I ran back upstairs, went straight through the hall to the back door, and pulled the handle hard. But the door was bolted, just as I thought it would be. It cannot be opened or closed without a key. I locked it myself. So who was the man I saw? How could I hear the door slam shut with such force that I felt the recoil go through the entire building? Even though the door couldn't open, what? This? Damn. I locked myself in and got the hell out of there. Nevertheless, it's a great pub. One of the oldest in Australia, located in a quiet and cozy area of the city. I want to go back and ask the new owners if they have seen or heard anything strange. There was something paranormal going on in my house. About the first month of living in a new apartment, I was sleeping on my stomach and woke up to something that seemed to be falling from the ceiling onto my leg. I woke up and started fighting it off, and then I jumped up, turned on the light and looked at the floor to figure out what it was. There was nothing there at all. A couple of months later, I broke up with my partner and was very upset. I think my heightened emotions woke up something, because a lot of strange things started happening. When I went to bed, I felt something like drops of water falling on my bare shoulder. My chest of drawers at the other end of the room was slamming shut even though it was already closed. A lot of strange, poltergeist-like things were happening, but relatively harmless. I had goosebumps on my skin. At first, I wasn't scared, but when it started happening more and more often, I started to panic. I didn't want to go home. One day, I came home from work, and my roommate was washing dishes with headphones on. I sat on the couch and started watching the series. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that something was falling from the ceiling. I was able to turn my head and look. Although it was falling fast, I could clearly see a black blob that looked like staticky electricity. She fell from the ceiling and landed on the dining table with a thud. Upon contact with the surface, it seemed to disappear. I was terrified and thought I couldn't handle what would happen if she came into my room. I ran out of the room and asked my roommate if I could spend the night in his bed. He agreed. All night long, I heard something banging on the door, as if mocking me. I didn't sleep much that night. I was a little scared and wrote about it on Facebook, asking for advice, pray, burn sage, etc. When I went to bed that night, I heard a drop falling on the floor at the other end of the apartment. All night long, she slowly approached my room. At some point, she found herself right outside the door. Soon after, my mom came in, lit incense, and read some Bible passages. I'm not religious, but I thought, okay, after that, everything seemed to disappear. I lived in this apartment for another 7 years. Very rarely, something happened, but nothing special. The last thing I remember is going to bed and it felt like someone was tapping my head with their knuckles. It was only later that I realized that the first time I fell asleep on my stomach was the same thing that tormented me in the last nights when I was possessed by a poltergeist. I have friends who are more interested in spiritual practices and witchcraft. They said that there was a sad ghost presence in this room. I would also like to make it clear that I have always treated ghosts, etc., with great skepticism. I think it's cool, but I've never been completely sure about it, and I'm still not sure. Part of me thinks that maybe I was so upset about the breakup that I somehow materialized this energy stuck in a loop. That's exactly how it felt, like a ghost stuck in a loop. It fell from the ceiling to the floor, over and over again. In short, a static black drop falls from the ceiling to the floor over and over again, scaring the hell out of me. I don't know if this can be called paranormal, but it's definitely an abnormal phenomenon. I've seen several UFOs in my life. The most remarkable and important of them are the ones that I saw with my brother and wife. The time I was with my brother, we were buying weed from a guy a few blocks away. We were sober until we got home. For some reason, I always have to explain this part to people, and we see a searchlight attached to something that looks like a UH-1 Iroquois helicopter. The problem is that it doesn't make any sound, not a single sound. We can't make out the hull, just a vague silhouette. We just stop to look at him. I'm even getting out of this damn car. As if sensing that we were watching him, he took off from there at a speed of a couple hundred. Then, as quickly as he had dived, he turned in the other direction at an acute angle. By about 270 degrees, still no sound. It happened about 10 miles from Lockheed Martin and Dobbins Air Force Base around 3 a.m. in Smyrna, Georgia. The one with his wife was a couple of weeks ago. For balloons over Lake Michigan, my wife says there are 5 of them. We had a little argument, in the spirit of Jean-Luc Picard and Gal Madrid, about how many lights there are. Funny. Anyway, these lights are in line with Fond du Lac Avenue in Milwaukee. We were heading northeast. Maybe it was over Lake Michigan, or maybe it was in Canada. I don't know. They seem to be at an altitude of 30 to 40,000 feet. From my point of view, the lights are arranged in pairs, like the headlights. But the problem is that at this distance, the control surface would never allow planes of this size to fly so close to each other in poor visibility conditions. Another problem is that they don't fucking move. I thought they were flying straight at me. But after 15 minutes, that theory was gone. They also did not have green and red taillights, only constant white lights. I was ready to write it off for the future, but then one light went out. Then another one. They went out one by one. That's when I realized that they were for separate ships, not two. I also came across a Gregor when I was a teenager. I was living with a roommate, and we were drawing a summoning circle for a Wiccan spell we used to practice, but stopped after that incident. We were a bit greedy in our spell. We created amulets to prosper for ourselves, not for others, and perhaps we closed the circle incorrectly. After that, at the witching hour, it became dark in the corridor leading to the room where we were drawing the circle. We felt cold and numb. The only thing we really saw was a dark figure flickering in the doorway. We were terrified. I know it was an egghead, because over the next few years I was plagued by financial difficulties. I don't even like saying his name, especially knowing that I'm finally okay. I'm going to burn some fucking sage before I'm homeless again.